bit. So welcome everybody. This is Andrew David. This is the High Performance Call with Blake Newbar's team. Now, your question today really is, what the hell is important to you in life? How do you figure it out? How do you keep yourself focused? If you're looking to become more and more productive, one of the most important things that you can do is focus on those important things. So I've got a couple of questions for you. And this came up because last week, over the weekend, I got an awesome opportunity. I got to spend some time with family. I hadn't been home in years. My mom's come out to Florida a few times, but I hadn't been able to be in my hometown in about 15 years. And so we got a chance to do that. And yesterday, I took my fiance and we were sitting outside of the home that I grew up in and looking at it. And other than some of the things in the yard and in the driveway, it hadn't changed at all. I mean, the same color of the house. It hadn't even been painted. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking about, the opportunity that I had over the weekend to connect with family members and with my brother, with my sisters in a way that I hadn't been able to recently. And it was fantastic. It was something that needs to be done more. And so I was thinking about, how can I make this much more regular? And I want you guys to think about that too. So let me hit on a couple of these. Will this be put on your page, as I can't make Tuesdays and Thursdays calls? All of the calls that I'm doing, guys, are going to be on the YouTube channels. Typically, they show up within 8 hours of the live call. So did we take mom out to a fancy restaurant? She wanted Texas Roadhouse. Like that was fancy for her. But she got a really big steak. She loved it. So, okay, that was great. The next day, though, we got to go to my brother and my sisters and our families. We all went to a sushi restaurant that I grew up eating at with my dad often. We went a lot. And so that was a real cool moment for us. We sat around, we ordered more sushi than we should have. We got to enjoy ourselves and just sit and tell funny dad stories. My dad passed away a while ago. And so we got to do that. We got to do that again on Saturday, hang out as family. And then I was out yesterday. I was out in an area called Watson Lake in Arizona, and or in Prescott, Arizona. If you go look it up, it's hard to explain without having been there, right? Without having seen something like it. Watson Lake is, if you're in parts of Arizona, there are mountains there. It's not just flat desert. And where I grew up, it's called the Granite Dells. And there are rocks that are the size of, it's hard to describe, houses, just single rocks that are the size of a car or a house or a person or bigger, 3 stories tall. And because everything, and there's this rock bed. And so this lake grows up right in the middle of it. And it's this beautiful, amazing area. And as I was sitting there yesterday, I realized that growing up, I may have been out there 3 or 4 times, just never went. It just wasn't part of what I did on a regular basis. How often do we take for granted the things that we have the most access to? Right? Because of the ease of being able to connect. It's just like talking with family. I'm sitting there with my brother and my sisters and talking about how we're going to stay in touch more. We're going to talk more. And I've talked about this before, and some of you guys may know what I mean. Not all of us are talking every single day with our family members. Some of you guys do. Some of you guys are still talking with your mom, your dad, your brothers and sisters every single day or multiple times a week. It's just hasn't been that way for my family for a long time. And so you look at what takes up your time during the day. So the question is what really is important? Now, here's your exercise. Here's these 3 questions you're going to write down. And this is what you're going to work on today. So maybe before you get into the 3 questions, I want you to sit and take 30 seconds and just write out your daily activities, like what you normally do. Some of you guys have gone through the homework as we get closer to the strategy session. One of the things is write out your ideal day. What I want you to do is sit down and write out what you do during the day. When I wake up, I roll over, my cell phone, the alarm goes off, I grab it. Before I'm even out of the bed, typically I'm looking at those first few emails to see what kind of emails came through overnight. I'm looking at my sales that came in overnight. I look at within the first hour or so, I've already checked out my crypto wallet to see if there's been anything there like this and that. And you get caught up, and then you recognize now I'm hustling out of the door a little bit late because I got caught up in some Instagram post that a friend, tagged me in, or I've got this or I've got that. So take a minute and write down what happens during your day. Next thing I want you to do, I need you to write down 5 things. What are your 5 things that are or should be the most important things to you? Pick 5, because I know we can list a lot more. So family, friends, work, personal development, health, your partner, spirituality, nature, the community, your kids, whatever. Pick 5 things. Okay. Everybody got that question down. What are your 5 things? Now, the next question that you're going to answer is, what are you doing daily or weekly at least to get the most out of those 5 things? What are you doing consistently, daily or weekly, to get the most out of those 5 things? So what are your 5 things? What are you doing with those 5 things? So if I'm saying family, now for me, if I wouldn't put just family, I'm going to break that up, because I got brothers, sisters, mom, and then I've got kids, and then I've got, my significant other. So I'm going to break those up personally. And you may need a little more than 5, but minimum 5. So what are they? And then what are you doing? So if health is one of those things, as I wrote this out over the weekend, I wrote out a little bit why health was important. And then I wrote out what I'm doing nutritionally, supplements, getting work done with the doctors and blood work and everything else to make sure I'm as healthy as I can be. Going in, here's what I'm doing with the gym and this and that, right? Like, write out what you're doing. If it's personal development, if it's your business, whatever it is, what are you doing? Okay. Now, the third question is kind of a 2-parter. What are you working on that is urgent versus what are you working on that's important? And then what is it that's keeping you from working on the important? Does that question make sense? Oftentimes we work on what's urgent, the emails, responding to a phone call, someone else's emergency. We neglected to do the laundry in time. We let it pile up. And so what we need to do is figure out how to work on the important and not just the urgent. Because too often the urgent is what gets us caught up and keeps us from making any real progression. So one of the things that I've got, and I mentioned this last week, so we are going to launch later this week, we'll launch an official kind of 30-day or 45-day challenge. I'm going to come together, pull some stuff together, and we'll do that. But one of the things that I'm going to be working on is making sure that every single day, 1 or 2 of those important things I put time into, right? It becomes easier when you spend less time on the urgent and more time on the important, because the important is what's really those are the things that move the needle. So Susan, number 3 is, it's kind of a combo. It's a 2-part question, is what are you working on that's urgent versus what's important? Like, what are the urgent things? What are the important things? And then what's keeping you from doing the important things, right? And so the answer to that isn't simply, the urgent stuff is keeping me from doing the important things. There's something else there.
What if you have a hard time distinguishing the difference?
That's where number 2 really comes in. Right. So number 2, or what are my 5, or number 1, what are my 5 things? I get it now. Right. So if I've got my 5 things and I know what really is important to me, a lot of the times I'd say close to 80% of our time is spent on the urgent stuff instead of the important. And we need to flip it. I'm not saying it's easy to flip, but that's one of the things you need to work on doing. So What are your 5 things? What are you doing daily or weekly to work on those 5 things? What are you working on that's urgent? And then versus important, and what's keeping you from doing those things? V, I appreciate you keeping those on there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to sit down today. I'm going to wrap this up. I want you to just take the next kind of 10 minutes and write this out for yourself. If you got questions about it, email me, andrew@blakenewbar.com. If you've got questions about it, chat with your accountability rep. Hey, I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Do you think this is something that's urgent? I spent some time over the weekend on some one-on-ones, people asking me about things, and they get caught up with the urgent stuff, and it's keeping them from doing the important, right? And obviously there's different levels of important, but take the time today to figure out at least what your 5 things are, guys, and what's keeping you from doing more with them. And on that note, I will see you guys in 24 hours. We're going to do a deep dive on how to write amazing copy, how to write great headlines, how to do more. If you've got questions, hit me up, Andrew@BlakeNewbar. I will be messaging some of you to catch up from a weekend away, and we'll do some awesome things together. Love you guys much. Appreciate you, as always, being here. Looking forward to some awesome trainings this week. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.